So we turn our attention to Group 1, post-World War II production sports cars from 1949 to 54. And this was a time of crossover when British chassis and cars were being imported into the United States and given muscle engines. And no surprise that pole position then robbed Manson, a 1953 Kurtis 500S Dodge. Jeff Abramson in the more traditional Ferrari 500 Mondial 1954. Then Joe Calleja on row 2, a 1952 Allard J2X, and Wes Abendroth in a Chevy Mistral Special from 1955. A couple more Jaguars on row 3, John Buderbaum and Bill Rookledge. In fact, 80% of the XK120s were exported from the UK to the US in this period. Row 4, Nick Price and the C-Type. C-Type standing for competition James Adler, who drove that XK120 down from Nevada. What a Jaguar specialist. John Mote in the Allard K2 and Alex Kurtis in the 1955 Gullwing from Mercedes, all silver, and Jonathan Kitchen in the only Aston Martin in the field, the Mark 1, and Jack Perkins in the 58 AC Warrior Bristol. A really beautiful combination from this very special era. Here they come to the start. The pace car is off and we are racing in Group 1. The green flag waves here at Sonoma Raceway. We welcome you once again back to the Sonoma Speed Festival. Good clean start. And Joe Calleja, I spoke to him yesterday. He's having a ball out there, the Australian in the number 11. Puff of smoke just coming out there of the number 11 as I spoke about him. There he is. Not a beautiful looking car. Just behind him, the number 3 of Bill Rookledge in another one of the Jaguars. Him and James Older, two of the real characters. They were the two of the first men I met here, and some great stories between them. They absolutely love their Jaguars, and that's all they want to race. And Rookledge getting a really good start. He's already up to 5th place. There's Older in the 33, just behind him. The 55 there of Wes Abendroth making up a spot. He's up to 4th place at the moment, just behind Joe Calleja. Again, a little bit of liquid coming out of the back of the number 11. Is everything A-okay at the moment? As I've mentioned before, just watch the wheels, especially when you have these open cars here. And with the breeze picking up a little bit, these cars get blown about a bit, and it's quite an achievement just to keep them in a straight line. And Jim Older, who you're looking at right now, the 33, I was talking to him about those drum brakes on those cars, because of course they're all original in terms of they have to be state-of-the-art era period to how they were made. And he said those drum brakes, when they start to go off a little, they start to move the car from left to right. So when you're coming into that turn 11 and you want to make an overtake, you've got to be a little bit more careful than you might normally be. Jim Older, a real character from Reno, Nevada. This is his 37th year of historic racing, and as true to the era, if not just because he's a crazy man, he drives that car to the races. So if he's racing at Monterey, it's 5.5 hours. If he's racing here, he said he did it in 2 hours and 48 minutes. Let's talk to him about that. I spoke to him earlier in the weekend. James Older, a very interesting character. Here he is.
Now, being a Brit, of course I'm partial to British cars, and there's none better than the XK120 Jaguar. And with me is James Older, who also has a passion for Jaguars. James, how did you get involved with racing these?
Well, I spectated the Monterey Historic Automobile Races in 1977, Jonathan. And I had purchased this car a couple of years before in 1975. But, you know, when I bought the car, I just really couldn't afford it. And I went to my boss and I told him, I said, look, we got to buy this car. We can resell it, make some money on it. So I convinced him to come up with half the money. I was selling Honda motorcycles at the time. He agreed to come up with half the money. However, I still needed my half, which I borrowed from his daughter. So I was just going to resell it. I had it in Harrah's swap meet. I didn't sell it. I then spectated the Monterey Historics, and I saw people, like you and I mean regular people, racing vintage sports cars. I went to my boss. I said, look, I can't sell this car. I've got to race it. So I worked out a plan to pay him off. I paid off his daughter, Christy, and then started working toward getting the car race ready, which my first event was in March of 1982.
Tell me a little bit about this car and why Jaguar. It wasn't really intended to, it was more about the engine and less about the body, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The engine, the double overhead cam inline 6-cylinder engine, was developed during World War II. William Lyons and Walter Haynes designed the engine. It was really just designed to propel their Mark V, the saloon, 100 miles an hour all day long. So they were trying to finish it for either the London Motor Show or the Earl's Court Motor Show of 1948. They couldn't get that car finished in time, and William Lyons sketched out on a piece of paper this body and said, look, just put the engine in the chassis, make an aluminum body to this shape, to this style, and we'll use it as a display for the motor only. Of course, the press was so excited about the car, it was so successful at the show, that Jaguar decided, we got to sell these, people want to buy them. The first 288 cars were all alloy. Then they used a standard bodybuilding to make steel-bodied cars, which is what this is. However, the bonnet is aluminum, the deck lid is aluminum, and the doors are alloy. So, it has just been a very successful car when it first came out. Sterling Moss had success racing in XK120. They did run XK120s at Le Mans. Did not win, but I think finished third or second or something, way up there. And again, that created so much excitement that Jaguar decided to build a competition version of this car, which was called the XK120C. So Malcolm Sayer designed what they thought would be a more aerodynamic body, and it's commonly referred to as the C-Type. There is a C-Type Jaguar right over there on the other side of the 120.
Finally, I got to ask you this question. There's so many unique things about this event and unique cars, but you're unique. You drove this from Nevada.
When I first started racing, I just didn't really have the finances for a trailer and a tow vehicle. I had to drive it to and from. In fact, the first event, I only had one headlight because I had hit a deer while braking in the motor. Did a lot of damage to it. Took about 7 or 8 months to get that fixed. Didn't have the headlight in. Went over the pass in March of '82, and the snow was so bad that after I got over, the pass was closed for 5 days. So driving to and from, of course, is how they did it back in the day. And that's what a lot of this is about, as far as I'm concerned. Pre-big sponsorship in the early days of sports car racing, really all the way up until kind of the early 60s. It was kind of the gentleman driver that, not necessarily a professional driver, just an amateur, drove the race car to the track, was competitive, and drove home. And that's the message I've always tried to send with this car. Now, my finances have improved a little bit over the years, and yeah, I could probably afford a trailer, but I've received so much attention and notoriety from driving to and from that it's hard for me to give that up.
Well, listen, you clearly are having a great time. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much for talking to me.
Lovely.
What a great character. Jim Alder drove the car from Reno, Nevada, all the way here to race it. And what a character. I love the part, and I don't want you to miss this part. So he didn't have enough money to buy the car, so he borrowed money from the man's daughter. Now that is the spirit. I love it. That's why he's a racing driver, you see. I wouldn't have thought of that, or been bold enough to do so. Good on him. Nick Price in the middle of this group. He's currently in 7th position in the number 21. Another C-Type. In fact, that's a C-Type Jaguar. It's exactly what Jim was just talking about there. Effectively what the production car became. And we've also got a 49 Parkinson Jaguar Special out there. The connection between the Parkinson Special is that the great American world champion Phil Hill and Don Parkinson, who in fact were brothers-in-law, each had lightweight aluminium-bodied XK120 Jaguars as well, roadsters for the 1950 season. So there's some real connection between Jaguar and the American world of sports car racing out here in front of you. And there's Joe Caleo of Australia, now America, in the number 11, being chased hard by that Jaguar C-Type. See that distinctive Jaguar grille there. And it doesn't matter what iteration, whether it be the F-Type current Jaguar, you still see that distinctive grille in some form or other to denote it as a Jaguar, or Jaguar, as they say here. Meanwhile, that Allard just ahead of him, that is a 1952 Allard J2X. Got a couple of Allards out there at the moment. Look at that Mercedes. Wouldn't miss that with the big German flag on the side, would you? And that's a cracking car too. Absolutely gorgeous. That is the classic SL Gullwing, the 300 SL Gullwing. That means that the distinctive colours of Mercedes represented in this race as well. There's another Allard just behind. John Mote in the K2 Allard 1950. I had a good look at that too. We come back to the number 7 of Jack Perkins and the number 9C just behind him. Field has grown as the weekend's gone on. But Rob Manson driving the Kurtis 500S Dodge from 1953 leading this group. Now, I mentioned John Mote. He's driving one of the Allards out there, and it's a really interesting story. There it is, the number 63. And yes, he describes it as a hybrid. Confused? Don't be. Here it is.
All right. So we talk a lot about history here at Sonoma Speed Festival, and this is part of it, a 1950 Allard K2 owned by John Mote here. And John, tell us just about the history of this car and why are you racing such an older car?
Well, this car is older, and it makes me feel young because it's actually older than me. It's 60 years old. I think it's 69 right now. 2019, 1950, that would make it 69 years old. And, well, it's just a great old car, and it's a piece of history, and it's all handmade. And that's what I like about it. It's low production. It's a hybrid, maybe one of the first hybrids, being that it's British and American. A British handmade aluminum body over an English ash frame with an American V8, the predecessor to the Shelby Cobra. So this is how Shelby Cobra pretty much started, with this idea to take a lightweight British chassis and stuff a big old V8 in. So this is what you get. You get an Allard.
How much fun is this to drive, to deal with, and to work with?
It's a primitive car. It's kind of like a sledgehammer, I think. It's not too, not the finesse of, say, a Jaguar, James Adler's XK120. That goes through the corners when I follow him because he's faster than me. That seems to go through the corners real well. But this car is a little bit more primitive, and there's a lot more sliding, a lot more movement, but it's still a blast.
I know everyone's kind of here for the same reason, just love of the game. They're having a good weekend here at Sonoma Speed Festival. But John, you individually, Why are you here?
Well, to enjoy the car, to be a part of history, maybe. When I am long gone, somebody will still be driving the car. So I'm just here to keep this thing alive and on the road, and so people can appreciate what came before us.
What are you looking forward to out on the track?
Just improve my lap time. I'm new to the track, so yesterday was actually kind of stressful, the first 20 laps. You're trying to figure out where everything is. Now that I know where my marks are, I just got to hit them. It's easier said than done, and just work on braking a little later and getting on the throttle a little earlier and having a good time.
Well, John, thank you. Good luck and have fun out there.
Thank you. Thanks.
You notice in that interview, he talks about the ash frame above the chassis of that car. Ash wood. I tested it out and looked under the dash, and it really is ash wood. And yep, wooden frames. Love it. So back to the racing. I think that Mercedes was getting a little leery earlier on. So the dust flying up a moment ago, and the Gullwing almost taking off. He's still out there, still going. And this is the battle for 5th place at the moment. Just ahead, I think, is James Allard, the man we mentioned earlier. But this is a good battle for 5th place between Nick Price and Joe Caleo. Just behind is Alex Kurtis in the Mercedes. And I know what John Mote's saying. You've got to just remember, once you learn a track, to hit those marks, because if you don't, the whole lap, and Kevin Buckler also said it too, which is you're looking for points on the track to hit each time to keep the rhythm and to keep the car in a flow. And the minute you miss that or make a mistake, that's when things start to go awry. Now another good battle. Moving uphill, Bill Ruckerlich in the all-green number 3, just getting ahead of Alex Kurtis. I'm sure he'll try to see if he can get on the back end of this battle just ahead of him as they all dive into turn 11. Out front though, after 7 laps done, Rob Manson still leading. Circulating in the 210s, and all of them under roughly 220 at the moment, so still pretty handy laps. In a moment, something completely different as we look for lap records, outright lap records around the Sonoma circuit. We reckon we've got Esteban Gutierrez in the Mercedes F1 down to about 115, which is rather handy. Jeff Abramson, the number 22. One of the 500 Mondial Ferraris. It's been a great display, and the organisers here should be well pleased with the output of cars that they managed to get involved in this race. Racers. Rather good-looking number 54, John Kitchen. Aston Martin D8 Mark 1. How about that for a bit of speciality? Slightly different look to all the other cars out there. Just to distinguish. It's always nice to have an Aston Martin. 1954, that car. Back the leader. Got about a 10-second lead at the moment. And Kurtis. 500S Dodge is what it is. Chrysler Hemi powered, and that's why you're getting that distinctive grunt. Built by Frank Kurtis. Beautiful sound of a V8 chomping through the hills here at Sonoma. John Budabam also out there in the number 3. He's in 3rd place at the moment. James Alder, who we heard from a moment ago, down in 4th position. And into the last turn comes the 9C. He's still pushing on. And onto the main straight one more time to start his last lap. There's Budabam chasing down Jeff Abramson for 2nd place. This is a good battle for the podium here as they go up the hill for the last time. Just wondering what the Parkinson Special can do. He's certainly looking as though he's ready to pass. As I mentioned, that Parkinson Special, aluminium body, as James was talking about. It's a car that Don Parkinson successfully campaigned and entered into the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance back in 1950. And also raced at the Pebble Beach Road Races in 51. But unfortunately, crashed into a pine tree. Not too much fun, that. The Special was built from the remains in Los Angeles by Robert Cumberland. It's had wins at Palm Springs, Terminal Island in 1953. And as I mentioned, both Don Parkinson and Phil Hill, the legendary Phil Hill, raced a very similar car themselves. Here's our leader then on the last lap. And Budabam's looking for a possible win here as they close right up, the 3 of them, and they're going to finish line astern. And are we going to see one attempt by John to maybe get into 2nd place? I think he's thinking about it. Why not? Last corner coming up. Oh no! And what's happened here? Our leader has slowed down. That surely must be a mechanical issue of some sort, because he slowed right down. And the winner's going to be Jeff Abramson, who takes the checkered flag, and sadly, Rob Manson comes over the line in 3rd by the looks of things. What a shame. And there is Abramson in the 22. The Ferrari 500 Mondial then winning the race here. There he is. That was a bit of a... So let's have a look at the highlights. Away went the leader, who sadly didn't make it to the end. Well, he did, but just over the line, and he led right from the get-go. Everybody chasing him down up the hill for the first time. There's the Allard at the back, and the number 63 of John Mote, and the number 11 of Joe Caleo, who had quite a interesting time. Jim Alder in the thick of it. Here he is in the 33 car, showing a clean set of heels as he dives past the number 55. Joe Caleo on the number 21 of Nick Price, getting through. And then right at the end, drama indeed, as Rob Manson crawls to the line. And I'm not sure if he made it or not. I think he did, but I don't think he made it much past the checkered flag. What a shame. But anyway, your winner, Jeff Abramson.